Waitress gets Millionaire'S computer working. Engineers don't understand how... The tension in the office on the 30th floor of the office tower in Midtown Manhattan was almost palpable. Maya Mitchell balanced the coffee tray while watching the 5 engineers in suits struggle around the computer that refused to turn on, their voices growing louder, mixing desperation and frustration. When businessman Arthur Sterling lost his patience and started shouting that that machine held the only digital photos left of his wife Eleanor, Maya felt her heart sink. She knew what it was like to lose someone important. That was when she timidly stepped forward and whispered that maybe she could try to help. The silence that followed was cutting. The engineers looked at her as if she had told a bad joke. Simon Graves, the head of the technical team, was the first to react with a sarcastic laugh. "You've got to be kidding, right, sweetheart?" he said, adjusting his glasses with a superior air. "We're specialists trained at the best universities in the country. If we can't fix it, you think you can." Maya felt her face grow hot, but she didn't back down. During her 2 years in the computer engineering program at Metro Institute of Technology, before having to drop everything to take care of her sick father, she had learned a lot about hardware. And above all, she had grown up tinkering with the old equipment her father David fixed at home. "I just wanted to try," she murmured, lowering her eyes. Arthur Sterling observed the 23-year-old young woman, black hair tied up in a simple bun, impeccable uniform from the ground-floor bistro, small hands that seemed steady. There was something in her quiet determination that moved him. "Let her try," said the businessman, surprising everyone. "Mr. Sterling, with all due respect," intervened Ryan Mitchell, one of the youngest engineers on the team, "we can't let a waitress mess with such delicate equipment. She could damage it even more." "The equipment is already dead," Arthur replied bitterly. "What's the worst she can do?" Maya approached the table where the computer sat. It was an older model, but she immediately recognized the brand and the type of motherboard. Her heart raced. It was exactly like the one her father had at home, the same model he had fixed dozens of times over the years. Carefully, she removed the side panel of the case. The engineers positioned themselves around her, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others clearly irritated by the absurd situation. "What are you doing?" asked Simon, crossing his arms. "Just checking some connections," Maya replied, focused. Her fingers located a small cable that seemed loose. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, but by touch, she could feel it wasn't fully seated. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot who are just starting out, now continuing. With a delicate movement, Maya pressed the connector until she felt the characteristic click of a perfect fit. Then she checked other points that her father always examined on that specific model. There was a small latch on the memory that needed to be repositioned, a detail only experienced technicians knew about. "Done," she said, stepping away from the machine. "Done what?" questioned Brandon Hayes, another engineer. "You just moved some cables around." Maya didn't respond. She simply pressed the power button. For a few seconds that felt like an eternity. Nothing happened. Then the case lights came on, the fan started spinning, and the monitor came to life. The desktop image appeared on the screen, followed by hundreds of thumbnail photos. Arthur Sterling stood paralyzed when he saw Eleanor's face smiling in one of the photos that appeared automatically. "That's impossible," Simon murmured, his eyes wide. "How did you do that?" Ryan asked, incredulous. Maya was about to explain when Simon interrupted her with an accusation that made her blood run cold. "Wait a minute. This is too convenient. You show up here every day serving coffee. You must have regular access to this office. I bet you're the one who caused the problem just so you could play the hero afterward. What are you implying?" Arthur turned to the engineer, his tone dangerous. "I'm saying she could have sabotaged the equipment to then promote herself. It's a common tactic. Create a problem and then show up with the solution." Maya felt her legs go weak. The accusation was absurd, but she knew how hard it would be to prove her innocence. She could hardly admit she knew that type of computer, because it would raise questions about her past that she preferred to keep secret. "That's ridiculous," Arthur said. "How would she know I'd let her touch the computer? Maybe she planned to offer from the very beginning. Simon insisted. "Mr. Sterling, I recommend we look into her background before we celebrate anything." The mood in the office grew tense again. Maya felt every pair of eyes on her, some suspicious, others curious. Arthur watched the discussion with a dark expression. "All right," the businessman finally said. "I want you to explain exactly how you got it working. Both of you," he pointed at the engineers, "and you." He looked at Maya. It was Brandon who tried first. He turned off the computer and attempted to repeat the movements he'd seen Maya make. He checked the cables, fiddled with the memory, and powered the machine back on. Nothing. The screen remained black. "Let me try," Ryan said, moving Brandon aside. He repeated the process with even more care, making sure every connection was perfect. Even so, the computer showed no sign of life. Simon was the last to try, and the result was the same. Frustration and bewilderment took over the group. "Your turn," Arthur said to Maya. She approached again, but this time her movements were watched as if under a microscope. She repeated the exact same steps, and once again the computer came back to life. "I don't get it," Ryan said, running a hand through his hair. "She's doing exactly the same thing we did." "Not exactly," Maya murmured, realizing she could no longer avoid giving an explanation. "There's a specific sequence, and a particular pressure point on the memory that needs to be touched before repositioning." "How do you know that?" Arthur asked, his eyes fixed on her. Maya swallowed hard. The time had come to reveal at least part of the truth. "My father was a computer technician. I have the same model at home. He taught me a few things." "Your father was a technician?" Arthur seemed genuinely interested. "Where did he work?" "At various companies over the years. He's retired now." It was a half-truth. David Mitchell really was retired, but not by choice. He had been humiliatingly let go from his last job at 58, and he'd never been able to fully get back on his feet. The medical debts from a heart condition had drained his savings. Simon didn't seem convinced by the explanation. "Even so, that doesn't explain how she can make it work and we can't. We're certified professionals. We know hardware better than any self-taught technician." Tension was rising again when Arthur's secretary, Mrs. Martha, walked into the room with a worried expression. "Mr. Sterling, forgive the interruption, but I need to speak with you urgently." Arthur nodded for her to come closer. Martha whispered something in his ear that made the businessman's face harden. "Maya, I need you to stay here for a few minutes. Martha, verify the information you gave me." The secretary left the room, leaving an uncomfortable silence behind. Maya felt that something was wrong, but she didn't know what. 15 minutes later, Martha returned with a folder in her hand. She handed some papers to Arthur, who read them in silence before lifting his eyes to Maya. "According to the information Martha got from the restaurant's HR department, you lied on your resume," he said, his voice cold. Maya's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "You stated you only had a high school diploma, but Martha found out you studied at Metro Tech for 2 years, computer engineering." The engineers exchanged meaningful glances. Simon crossed his arms with an "I knew it" expression. "Why did you lie about your education?" Arthur continued. Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. Her entire life seemed to be crumbling in that moment. "I didn't finish the program," she said, her voice trembling. "I had to stop in my 2nd year." "Why?" "My father got sick. Someone had to work to pay the bills and take care of him. I was the only family he had." The revelation brought a moment of uncomfortable silence. Some of the engineers looked uneasy, but Simon kept his stern expression. "That doesn't change the fact that she omitted important information," he said. "If she has technical knowledge, why is she working as a waitress instead of looking for a job in the field?" "Because without a degree, nobody will hire me," Maya replied, trying to keep her emotions in check. "And I can't afford to stay unemployed searching for the perfect job. My father depends on me." Arthur studied the young woman for a long moment. There was something in her quiet courage that reminded him of Eleanor, who had always fought for causes she believed were right. "All right," he said finally. "I'll make you a proposal. I need this computer to run reliably. If you can guarantee that and teach the method to my team, I'll pay for a technical course for you." It could even be the continuation of your degree if that's what you want. Maya looked at him in disbelief. It was more than she could ever have dreamed of. Sir, she began. But, Arthur raised his hand. There's a condition. You need to demonstrate your full technique to my engineers today. No secrets. And the computer has to work flawlessly for at least 1 full week. I don't think that's a good idea, Simon interjected. We still don't know what her real intentions are. Simon, you're being paranoid, said Ryan. The girl clearly knows what she's doing. Paranoid? Simon turned to his colleague. A stranger shows up out of nowhere, solves a problem 5 specialists couldn't, and you all think that's normal. The argument among the engineers began to heat up. Maya watched with a heavy heart, feeling her opportunity slipping through her fingers. Enough, Arthur slammed his hand on the table. Maya, do you accept my proposal? I accept, she said without hesitation. Then let's start right now. I want a complete demonstration of your method. Maya approached the computer again, but this time her hands trembled slightly. So much depended on that moment. If she could prove her worth, maybe she could change her life and her father's. She began explaining each step as she worked. She showed how to identify the specific cable that tended to come loose on that model, the exact pressure needed to reseat the memory, and the checkpoints her father always ran through. This model has a known factory defect, she explained. The power supply connector sometimes doesn't make perfect contact. You have to press at a specific angle. She demonstrated the technique several times, always with success. The engineers watched attentively, taking notes and asking technical questions that she answered with confidence. Impressive, admitted Brandon. There really does seem to be a specific sequence. Where did your father learn this? Asked Ryan. He worked at a company that had many of these models. After fixing dozens of them, he figured out the pattern. Arthur followed everything with growing interest. The girl clearly knew what she was doing, and her explanation was logical and detailed. Very well, he said when the demonstration ended. I want you all to practice her technique for the rest of the afternoon. Maya, you can go, but tomorrow I want you here at 8 in the morning to supervise. Sir, I work at the bistro. I've already spoken with the manager. You're temporarily transferred to my team. Maya could hardly believe what was happening. In a matter of hours, her life had taken a complete turn. As she left the office, she overheard Simon commenting to his colleagues, I still think there's something strange about this whole story. Nobody just shows up out of nowhere with such specific knowledge. His words followed her to the elevator. Maya knew she would have to constantly prove her worth, but for the first time in a long while she felt a spark of hope. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. On the way home, Maya called her father at the hospital, where he was admitted for a routine cardiac procedure. Dad, you won't believe what happened today, she said, barely able to contain her excitement. What is it, sweetheart? You sound different. Maya told him the whole story, from the moment she saw the computer to Arthur's offer. On the other end of the line, David was silent for a few seconds. Maya, I need to tell you something, he said finally, his voice carrying a sadness she couldn't quite identify. What is it, Dad? That man, Arthur Sterling, I've heard that name before. What do you mean? It was at the company where I worked last. Before I was let go, his company bought ours and there was a restructuring. A lot of people lost their jobs. Maya felt a knot in her stomach. Are you sure? I'm sure. It's not a common name. And his company, Sterling Dynamics, was the one that took over our contracts. Dad, he couldn't have been directly involved in the layoffs. That kind of thing is decided by managers. Maybe not, sweetheart. But it's a strange coincidence. Maya arrived home with her head spinning. Could Arthur really not remember her father? Or was there some connection she wasn't seeing? The next morning, she arrived at the office promptly at 8 o'clock. The engineers were already there, trying to apply the technique she had taught them. How's it going? She asked. Simon managed to get it working once, replied Ryan, but then he couldn't repeat it. And the rest of you? Nothing, said Brandon, frustrated. It's like the machine only obeys you. Maya watched Simon work. He was making all the right movements, but something was different. It took her a few minutes to realize what it was. "You're pressing too hard," she said. "This type of connector is delicate. It needs firmness, not force." "I'm doing exactly what you showed us yesterday," Simon shot back, clearly irritated. "Let me try again." Maya repeated the process slowly, explaining every nuance. This time, Brandon managed to get the computer working. "I did it," he exclaimed, beaming. Ryan tried next and also succeeded. Simon went last, and after a few frustrating attempts, he finally got it. "Very well," said Arthur, who had arrived a few minutes earlier and had been watching everything. "It seems the method can be taught." "I still have doubts about the reliability," said Simon. "We need to test it for longer." "I agree," replied Arthur. "Maya, I want you to stay here for the entire week, supervising. If at the end of that period the computer is working perfectly, we'll fulfill our agreement." Over the following days, Maya worked side by side with the engineers. Gradually, they mastered the technique, and the computer ran without any problems. But on the fourth day, something unexpected happened. Maya had gone out for lunch when she received an urgent call from Mrs. Martha. "Maya, you need to come back immediately. The computer has stopped working, and none of the engineers can get it to turn on." She rushed back to the office and found the team in a panic. Arthur was visibly nervous, pacing back and forth. "What happened?" she asked. "We don't know," replied Ryan. "It was working normally and suddenly it shut down. We tried your technique several times, but it doesn't work." Maya approached the computer and immediately noticed that something was different. The position of some cables wasn't the same as she had left them. "Someone tampered with this," she said. "No one touched anything," protested Simon. "We were just running routine tests." Maya examined the equipment more carefully. There were signs that someone had opened the case and repositioned some parts. "This was moved deliberately," she said, pointing at a cable. "And this connector was forced." "Are you accusing someone of sabotage?" asked Simon, his tone dangerous. "I'm saying that someone intentionally altered the connections." The tension in the air was palpable. Arthur watched the argument with growing attention. "Who has had access to the computer since yesterday?" he asked. "All of us," replied Brandon. "We were practicing Maya's technique." "But I left everything in perfect condition yesterday," Maya insisted. "This was tampered with afterward." "Maybe you don't remember correctly," suggested Simon. "Or maybe your technique isn't as reliable as we thought." Maya felt the anger rise inside her. She knew exactly what had happened, but she couldn't prove it. "Let me try to fix it," she said, controlling her voice. She worked for nearly an hour, undoing the changes she found and repositioning everything correctly. Finally, the computer was working again. "There," she said, stepping away from the machine. "How do we know this won't happen again?" asked Arthur. "It won't," Maya replied with conviction, "as long as no one messes with what they shouldn't." The look she gave Simon didn't go unnoticed by anyone. That night, Maya decided to take action. She arrived at the office 2 hours early the next morning and installed a small monitoring program that her father had taught her years ago. Any attempt to alter the system would be recorded. During the day, she worked normally with the team. The computer ran without problems, and everyone seemed relaxed. But when she checked the system logs the following morning, she found exactly what she expected. Someone had accessed the computer at 6:30 p.m. the previous day, long after working hours. "Mr. Sterling," she said, calling Arthur aside for a private conversation, "I need to show you something." She explained the monitoring program and showed him the records. Arthur examined the data carefully. "Does this show that someone was trying to sabotage the system?" he asked. "It shows that someone made unauthorized changes after working hours, the same changes that caused the problem yesterday." Arthur sat in silence for a few minutes, processing the information. "Do you have any suspicions about who it was?" "I do," replied Maya. "But I'd rather you draw your own conclusions." Arthur called a meeting with the entire team. He presented the system logs without mentioning how they were obtained. "Can anyone explain why the computer was accessed outside of working hours?" he asked. The engineers exchanged confused glances. Everyone denied having been in the office at that time. "The building's security cameras should have recorded who came in," said Arthur. I'll request the footage. The threat had the desired effect. Simon was visibly uncomfortable. Mr. Sterling, he said finally, I did come back last night, but only to check a few procedures. What procedures? I wanted to make sure I was doing the technique correctly. I thought I could practice a little more. And why didn't you mention that when I asked? Simon turned red. Because I knew it would look strange. And then, when the problem happened today, I was afraid of being blamed. You were to blame, Arthur said coldly. Your practice caused the problem. It was an accident. I didn't intend to sabotage anything. Maya watched the scene with mixed feelings. On one hand, she felt vindicated. On the other, she couldn't help but feel sorry for Simon, even after everything he'd done. Simon, you're suspended for 2 weeks, Arthur announced. When you come back, I want a formal written explanation of your procedures. After Simon left, the atmosphere in the office became more relaxed. The other engineers began treating Maya with more respect, and she finally felt she was being accepted as part of the team. On the last day of the trial week, Arthur called Maya in for a conversation. You've held up your end of the agreement, he said. The computer ran perfectly. You taught the technique to my team, and you even identified the sabotage problem. I'm impressed. Thank you, sir. Now it's my turn to keep my promise. What kind of course would you like to take? Maya had thought about it a lot during the week. Actually, I'd like to finish my degree, if that's possible. Of course it's possible. I'll take care of everything. Tuition, materials, whatever you need. Maya felt tears of gratitude in her eyes. Mr. Sterling, I don't know how to thank you. No need to thank me. You've proven your worth. By the way, I have another proposal for you. What is it? I'd like you to work part-time here at the company while you study, as a technical assistant. The salary would be 3 times what you make at the bistro. Maya could hardly believe it. It was more than she had ever dreamed of. I accept, she said without hesitation. Great. You can start on Monday. When Maya got home that night, she found her father waiting with a strange expression on his face. Sweetheart, I need to tell you something, he said. What is it, Dad? I remembered where I heard the name Arthur Sterling before, and it wasn't at the company I was thinking of. Maya felt a knot in her stomach. What do you mean? Your mother mentioned that name several times when she was in the hospital. She said a very kind businessman always visited the patients in the ward where she stayed during her last few months. Maya stood frozen. Her mother had passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. In the last months of her life, she had spent a lot of time in the hospital. Dad, are you sure? Absolutely. She talked about a man who had lost his wife and who visited other patients to offer support. She said he was very caring with everyone. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I wasn't sure it was the same person, but now thinking about it, it makes sense. Your mother always said that man had lost his wife recently and that visiting other patients helped him cope with his grief. Maya spent the entire night thinking about this revelation. Had Arthur helped her because he recognized something in her, or was it all just a coincidence? On Monday, when she officially started working at the company, she decided to address the subject directly. Mr. Sterling, she said during a pause, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Did you used to visit patients at St. Jude's Medical Center a few years ago? Arthur stopped what he was doing and looked at her carefully. Yes, I did. Why? My mother was a patient there. She used to talk about a very kind businessman who visited the patients. I think it was you. Arthur was silent for a few seconds, and Maya could see conflicting emotions crossing his face. What was your mother's name? He asked finally. Lucille Mitchell. Arthur closed his eyes and sighed deeply. Mrs. Lucille. Yes, I remember her. A very brave woman, always trying to cheer up the other patients, even while going through such difficult times. Yes, that was exactly how she was. She talked about you a lot. She said she had a very intelligent daughter who was studying engineering, but who had stopped the program to take care of her father. Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. Have you remembered me since that first day? Not immediately, but when you said your father was a technician and that you had dropped out of college, the pieces just clicked into place. Your mother showed me a picture of you once. Why didn't you say anything? Arthur thought for a moment before answering. Because I wanted you to prove your worth on your own merit, not out of pity or memories of the past. Your mother always said you would hate receiving help out of charity. She was right, Maya admitted, smiling through her tears. She also said you would be an exceptional engineer one day. Seems she was right about that too. That conversation completely changed the dynamic between them. Maya began to see Arthur not just as a generous boss, but as someone who had offered comfort to her mother during the hardest moments. In the following months, she devoted herself intensely to her studies and her work. She went back to college with renewed enthusiasm, now knowing exactly what she wanted to do with her life. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, her relationship with the engineers also improved drastically. Ryan and Brandon became not just colleagues but true friends. Simon, after returning from his suspension, formally apologized and admitted he had acted out of jealousy and insecurity. I was afraid of losing my place on the team, he confessed one day. When you showed up knowing things I didn't, I felt threatened. I understand, Maya replied, but we know how to work together now. Yes, and I have to admit you've taught me a lot about humility. 6 months later, something unexpected happened. Arthur's computer started presenting new problems, but this time they were more complex. Important files seemed to be corrupted, and neither Maya nor the engineers could find a solution. Maybe it's time to consider migrating to a more modern system, Ryan suggested. No, Arthur said firmly. Those files hold too much sentimental value. There has to be a way to recover them. Maya spent entire nights studying the problem. She consulted her father, searched the internet, and even contacted former professors from the university. Finally, she discovered it was a specific type of data corruption that could be fixed with a very advanced technique. It's going to take time, she warned Arthur, and I can't guarantee I'll be able to recover everything. Do what you can, he replied. Maya worked for 3 straight days, barely sleeping. Slowly, she managed to recover file after file. When she finally finished, she had saved over 90% of the original data. But it was during this process that she made a discovery that would change everything once again. Among the recovered files, she found a folder called Unsent Letters. Out of curiosity, she opened one of the files and discovered they were letters Eleanor had written to Arthur during her hospitalization, but that she apparently had never given to him. One of the letters specifically mentioned a young woman who was always visiting other patients. Today I met a very special young woman here at the hospital. She takes care of her mother, who is very ill, but she always finds time to talk with other patients and lift their spirits. She reminded me so much of you, Arthur. The same generosity, the same ability to care about others, even when you're suffering. Maya kept reading, her heart racing. I found out she's studying engineering, but she had to stop to take care of her family. What a waste of talent. If I could, I would help her somehow. People like that deserve their chance in life. Further along, Eleanor described conversations she had had with Maya during the visits she made to the hospital as a volunteer. Maya, that's her name, told me today about the computers her father fixes. She has a genuine passion for technology, Arthur. You'd be impressed by her knowledge, even without having finished her degree. Tears ran down Maya's face as she read. Eleanor had remembered every conversation, every detail of her life. The last letter dated was written just 1 week before Eleanor passed away. My love, I know my time is running out, but I want you to know that meeting people like Maya gave me hope in humanity. If you ever have the opportunity to help her, please do. Not as charity, but because she deserves it. People like her are rare in this world. Maya stood frozen in front of the screen. Everything made sense now. Arthur hadn't helped her just on his own merit, or because of memories of her mother. He was fulfilling his wife's final request. She hesitated, wondering whether she should show the letters to Arthur. Would it be fair for him to know that Eleanor had specifically asked him to help her, or would it be better to leave things as they were? After much thought, she decided he had the right to know. She printed all the letters and placed them in a folder. Mr. Sterling, she said the next morning, I found something during the data recovery that I think you should see. Arthur looked at the folder she was holding out, intrigued. What is it? Letters your wife wrote, but never delivered. Some of them are about me. Arthur took the folder with trembling hands. He read the first letter in silence, then the second. Maya watched the emotions pass across his face, surprise, sadness, a kind of melancholy relief. When he finished reading, he remained silent for several long minutes. She remembered you, he said at last. Every conversation, every detail. Yes. And she asked you to help me. Arthur nodded slowly. But there's something you need to know, Maya. Even without those letters, I would have done the same thing. Your competence, your dedication, your honesty. All of that was clear from day one. I know, Maya replied, but it's comforting to know your wife believed in me too. Eleanor always had a gift for spotting special people, Arthur said with a sad smile. She saw in you what I only came to discover later. That afternoon, Arthur made a decision that surprised everyone. I want to make a proposal to you all, he said to Maya and the engineers. I'm thinking about expanding the company, opening a division focused on technical training for young people from underserved communities. What kind of training? Brandon asked. Computer maintenance, basic networking, technical support, things that can provide a dignified profession for those who can't afford to complete a full degree. That's an interesting idea, said Ryan. But who would coordinate a project like this? Arthur looked directly at Maya. I was thinking of someone who understands both the technical and the human side of the issue. Maya was speechless. Sir, I'm still finishing my degree. That's exactly why. You understand how hard it is to balance studies and work, and you have the hands-on experience that many university professors don't have. It would be a huge responsibility, and you're ready for it. What do you think? Maya looked around the room. Ryan and Brandon were smiling, clearly supporting the idea. Even Simon seemed enthusiastic. Can I think about it? Of course, but don't take too long. I want to start the project this year. That night, Maya had a long conversation with her father about the proposal. David, who had fully recovered and even gone back to doing some consulting work, was glowing with the possibilities. Sweetheart, this is exactly the kind of thing your mother would love to see you doing, he said. But it's so much responsibility, Dad. What if I mess up? And what if you don't? Think about how many young people you could help, how many families going through what we went through. Maya knew he was right. It was a unique opportunity to turn her own experience into something positive for others. The following week, she gave Arthur her answer. I accept, she said. But I have a few conditions. What are they? I want my father to be a consultant on the project. He has more practical experience than I do and knows the real difficulties technicians face. Great idea. What else? I want some of the spots reserved for children of company employees who were let go over the past few years. I know there was a major restructuring. Arthur was surprised by the second condition. Is this your way of getting back at the company for the layoffs? No, Maya answered honestly. It's a way of turning something negative into something positive. Those families were hurt by the company's expansion. Now they can benefit from it. Arthur smiled. Eleanor would be proud of you for this. I hope so. The following months were intense. Maya coordinated the development of the course curriculum, the selection of instructors, and the choice of location for the school. She worked side by side with Arthur to make sure everything was done as efficiently as possible. The first class had 30 students, all young people between 16 and 25 years old, from underserved communities. Maya insisted on personally taking part in the selection process, looking not only for technical skill, but mainly for dedication and genuine need. Why do you want to take this course? She asked each candidate. The answers were always touching. Young people who needed to work to support their families, who had dropped out of school due to financial hardship, who saw technology as a chance to change their lives. One of those selected was Tyler James, a 19-year-old whose story was very similar to Maya's. He had stopped studying to care for his sick mother and supported his family working as a delivery driver. I've always liked tinkering with computers, he said during the interview. But I never had the chance to learn properly. Maya saw in him the same potential that Arthur had seen in her. The course lasted 6 months. Maya closely followed each student's progress, offering support not just technically but emotionally as well. She knew how hard it was to balance studying with family responsibilities. Tyler stood out from the start. He had a natural instinct for diagnosing problems and an impressive capacity for learning. Maya decided to give him special attention, just as Arthur had done with her. "Have you thought about going to college after the course?" she asked him one day. "I can't afford it," Tyler replied. "What if there were a scholarship? That would be a dream come true." Maya talked to Arthur about the possibility of offering scholarships to the most promising students. He not only agreed, but proposed something even bigger. "What if we created a system where the best students could work part-time at the company while they studied?" he suggested. "Like I did?" "Exactly like you did." The graduation of the first class was an emotional event. Arthur insisted on handing out each diploma personally, and Maya gave a speech about the importance of never giving up on your dreams. "You are proof that opportunity and dedication can completely change a life," she told the graduates. "Now it's up to you to multiply that opportunity for others." Many of the graduates found jobs immediately. Others decided to continue studying. Tyler was one of those selected for the work-study program. 2 years later, Maya finally graduated with a degree in computer engineering. Arthur, David, and all her colleagues from the company attended the ceremony. "Your mother would be very proud," Arthur said as she received her diploma. "So would your wife," Maya replied. The technical school had become a success. It had already graduated more than 200 students, and the demand for spots only kept growing. Maya had become a leading figure in technical education, receiving invitations to speak and consult at other companies. But it was 3 years after her graduation that she received the proposal that would change her life once again. Arthur called her into his office, the same one where it had all begun. "Maya, I have a proposal for you," he said. "What is it?" "I want you to take over as CEO of the company." Maya almost fell out of her chair. "What do you mean?" "I'm thinking of retiring. I want to travel, maybe write a book, spend more time doing the things Eleanor always said I should be doing. But, sir, I don't have any experience in business management." "You have experience leading people, solving problems, turning difficulties into opportunities. That's exactly what a good manager needs to know how to do." "What about the other engineers? Ryan and Brandon have been with the company much longer, and they'll continue to be essential. But you have something they don't. The vision of someone who came from humble beginnings and knows how to reach the top." Maya was silent, processing the proposal. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But know that my decision is already made. With or without you, I'm retiring next year. I'd rather leave the company in the hands of someone I trust completely." That night, Maya talked to her father about the proposal. David, now working as a permanent consultant at the technical school, was beaming at the possibilities. "Honey, do you realize how far you've come?" he said, "from waitress to possible owner of a tech company." "Your mother wouldn't believe it." "She would, Dad. She always believed in me. And so does Arthur. He could sell the company, but he'd rather leave it to you. That means a lot." Maya knew her father was right. It was an extraordinary display of trust. 3 months later, she gave Arthur her answer. "I accept," she said, "but with one condition." "What's that?" "You stay on as a consultant. I don't want to lose your experience and wisdom." Arthur smiled. "I was hoping you'd make that proposal." The transition was gradual and careful. Maya took on increasing responsibilities over the course of a year, always with Arthur available for guidance. When she finally officially became the company's CEO, she felt ready for the challenge. Her first decision as CEO was to expand the technical school program to other cities. Her second was to create a support fund for employees' families facing medical difficulties. "I know what it's like to have to choose between work and family," she explained to the board. "No one should have to go through that." Tyler James, who had graduated in engineering with a company scholarship, became her right-hand man. Together, they developed new projects that combined social responsibility with business success. 5 years after taking over as director, Maya had transformed Sterling Dynamics into the most respected technology company in the state, not just for its financial results, but for its social impact. The technical school had already graduated over 1,000 students, the family support program had helped hundreds of employees, and the company grew year after year, always holding on to its core values. On a Friday afternoon, Maya was in her office reviewing reports when Mrs. Martha knocked on the door. "Maya, there's someone here who'd like to speak with you." "Who is it?" "A young woman. She says she works at the ground floor bistro and has a proposal to make." Maya smiled. Life had a way of repeating itself in unexpected ways. "Send her in." The young woman who walked in was even younger than Maya had been years ago. Curly hair tied back in a braid, flawless bistro uniform, eyes shining with nervous determination. "Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Chloe Mitchell. I work at the bistro and... Well, I heard you started out working there too." "That's true," Maya replied, gesturing for her to sit down. "What can I do for you, Chloe?" "I study programming at night, self-taught, through the internet, and I developed an app that I think your company might be interested in." Maya leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of app?" "A management system for small restaurants. It integrates orders, inventory, finances, everything in one simple platform." "Interesting. And why do you think it might interest our company?" "Because you always support innovative projects from young entrepreneurs, and because I hope to have the same luck you had." Maya studied the young woman for a few seconds. She saw in her the same determination, the same courage she had felt years ago. "All right, Chloe, I'm going to give you the same opportunity I was given, but with one condition." "What is it?" "If your project gets approved, you'll have to commit to passing the knowledge forward. That's how things work around here." "I accept," Chloe said without hesitation. Maya smiled, remembering Arthur and how he had changed her life with a single opportunity. "Then let's get started. I want to see a full demo of your app." While Chloe set up her presentation, Maya looked out the window and watched the movement on the street below. People coming and going, each with their own dreams and struggles, each with the potential to surprise. She thought of her mother Lucille, who had always believed in her abilities. She thought of Eleanor, who had asked Arthur to help her. She thought of her father David, who never stopped supporting her. And she thought of Arthur, who had turned a chance encounter into a complete life change. Life really was full of cycles. And she was ready to start a new one, offering Chloe the same chance she had received years ago. "I'm ready," Chloe said, interrupting her thoughts. "Then let's see what you've got to show us," Maya replied, smiling. End of story. So, what did you think of this story of overcoming hardship and transformation? Maya proved that a single opportunity can change an entire life, but only when it meets determination and competence. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been in a situation where someone believed in your potential when others doubted you? Or were you the one who gave someone a chance? Your experiences might inspire other listeners. Leave a like if this story moved you, and subscribe to the channel for more touching narratives like this one.